The greatest wildlife show on earth, the Great Migration. So let's take a look at where you can stay. There's a few really great accommodation options. We'll take a look at how you can experience the migration, but most importantly, I'll take you through a step-by-step guide of what is happening between Kenya and Tanzania each month, which will help you decide on the best time to visit. A few facts about the migration. Well, between January and March, 500,000 wildebeest are born each year in the Serengeti. In February, the month with the highest calving rate, around 8,000 wildebeest are born each day. Now, did you know wildebeest calves can run 2 minutes after being born? And zebras and wildebeest graze in harmony together as they each eat different parts of the same type of grass. Wildebeest possesses swarm intelligence. They know how to explore and overcome an obstacle as one. The Serengeti National Park ecosystem is the oldest on the planet, and it boasts a diversity of plants and animals you will not find anywhere else on the globe. So between January to March, the herds are calving in the Ngorongoro and the Ndutu areas, which means great visibility of wildlife in one place and the best time of year to see plenty of young animals, which is also of great interest to the thousands of predators looking for their next meal. It is also a good value time to travel, as while you will not see the herds crossing the rivers, you will still see large herds of animals, and this will be at a fraction of the cost of traveling around July and August time, which is high season. April to May is the wet season, with the rains in the bush tending to be afternoon storms rather than continuous showers. The game viewing includes leopard, lion and elephant sightings, which are excellent and really good for photography at this time of year. The herds are starting to break away into groups, making their way to the central Serengeti, and this is moving towards the western corridor into the Lobo area. June through to August, this is when it is peak season, and this is when you will see the animals crossing the river. In June, to get to the grassy plains of Kenya, the animals must pass through the crocodile-infested waters of several rivers, notably the Grimeti in Tanzania, and you'll see this pictured here on the map. In July and August, this will see the herds crossing over the Sand and the Mara rivers onto Kenya. And a good portion of wildlife still remains in the Serengeti year-round, and crossing back and forth is not uncommon. June through to August, this is the peak season and it is going to be a busy time to travel. And often what the photos do not show you of the migration river crossings is the hundreds of vehicles that are actually lined up on the edge of the river. So it's just something to be aware of. We've got a great selection of safari camps and lodges that can get you away from the crowds, but it's just when you come down to do these river crossings, often you can expect to see quite a few vehicles. It's also worth noting, being peak season, you will pay more of a premium for it. So from September through to October, this is the dry season and the big herds are still up in the Masai Mara. It's green, it's pleasant, and the wildebeest will be happily grazing. There is resident wildlife in the Serengeti ecosystem, so this also makes for some terrific game viewing. November to December, much of the grass of the Masai Mara has been devoured, and the animals' instincts tell them to move southwards to the Serengeti where the rains once again are beginning. So they return south through to the Serenera to the Serengeti areas, completing this cycle. The four-wheel drive safari is the most common way for people to get out and do their safari experiences, but you've also got options such as hot air ballooning over the migration, which is an incredible way to go and see the huge herds of animals. And then you've also got your fly-in safaris or fly-around safaris. These are an incredible experience for travellers who wish to save time by flying between camps. It also gives you the opportunity to access more remote destinations. The aircraft fly low across the plains, so it gives you an amazing opportunity to spot an abundance of wildlife from above, and it really does give you game viewing from a whole new perspective. And just remember, when you're planning your safari, the cheapest is definitely not always the best. And this is something to keep in mind when you're looking at itineraries and you think, gosh, that seems really cheap. Often it's cheap for a reason. And it's worth noting about the private concessions versus the public concessions. So this is a public area within the Masai Mara National Park. You can see there's a lot of vehicles here. It's going to be quite noisy. It's going to be quite crowded. Everyone's leaning out to try and get this photograph of the lion. So it's definitely worth spending the money and going to stay in a private concession. One of our partners we use in Africa is an amazing company called And Beyond, and you'll see them pictured here. They have quite a few private concessions across Kenya and Tanzania, and the benefits are you still get to see the wildlife, minus all of the crowds of vehicles. So you're not being hurried along. You know, when you come across a family of lions, you want to be able to stop and take photos without being, honked along and saying, right, hurry up, it's our turn, we want to take the photos now. Also, what they will try and do is not fill the vehicles to capacity, so everyone in the vehicle gets an aisle seat, meaning you don't have to lean over to try and get photographs. Some of our favourite places to stay for the migration include the Serengeti under canvas. This is an incredible mobile camp that moves 5 times a year, and the camp attempts to anticipate the movements of the migration, bringing guests as close to as possible to the wildebeest action, as well as exploring the resident game. There's just 9 tents nestled in a private campsite, and this gives you the opportunity to enjoy complete luxury whilst having the full camping African bush experience. These mobile camps are intimate, they're very exclusive. You enjoy a private butler service, there's chandeliers, silverware, crystal, ensuite flush water closet, outdoor heated bucket style showers, and comfortable beds with fluffy duvets. So you'll be very, very well looked after. The guest areas include a dedicated sitting and dining tent which provides deep sofas, and you can sit there and just look out into those beautiful grassy plains and relax at night time. So it's a beautiful way to go and experience Africa. In Kenya, you've got Batulua Camp, which is one of our favourites, as it's also located on a private concession, which means only guests from the camp can traverse the land, keeping away from the crowds. It's also perfect for viewing river crossings when the migration is in the Masai Mara around the end of June to October, and it's just generally a really good option for accommodation year round. They'll include twice daily game drives, there's the spotlit night drives, and the camp also offers a range of activities such as bushwalks, there's the hot air balloon safaris, community excursions, and it's also, again, a lovely place to sit and just look out to those beautiful grassy plains. And of course, I need to mention beautiful Giraffe Manor, as this seems to be all over social media at the moment. Giraffe Manor is located about 20 kilometres from Nairobi, and guests can have the opportunity to stay in this beautiful old colonial farmhouse. They will sit in the grounds and enjoy a lovely afternoon tea. The giraffes will then amble up to you. There'll be little warthogs wandering around, and the giraffes will eat out of the palm of your hand. Now, if you are wondering, they actually have an antibacterial property in their tongues, so it's actually not unsafe if they lick you. There are a few other areas to explore in Kenya, such as Samburu Game Reserve, which has some more desert species of wildlife, and that makes for a really lovely combination to do with the Masai Mara. You've got Lake Nakuru, which is famous for its thousands of pink flamingos that are scattered the shoreline, and they're pink because of the algae that they eat. Lake Naivasha, this is famous for its hippos. There's fantastic bird life here, so you can go and enjoy a boat ride on the lake and do your wildlife spotting from there. In Tanzania, you've got the Ngorongoro crater, which is the world's largest volcanic caldera. It's about 26 kilometres wide and 600 metres deep, and there is an abundance of wildlife here year round, so you can visit any time of the year, and it's also a great place to go and see the Big Five. To give you an idea, there's about 30,000 animals that live in this crater, so you'll find some terrific wildlife sightings in here. The beautiful Spice Island of Zanzibar is the perfect place to flop and drop after a busy few weeks on safari. And yes, being on safari is actually quite tiring with the early starts, the afternoon game drives. So just to go and chill out for a few days on Zanzibar is the perfect way to go and finish your holiday. The town of Stonetown is beautiful. There are some lovely areas to explore there. They've got the beautiful doors. It's got a stunning waterfront area with a lovely atmosphere and night markets. And of course, Freddie Mercury was born here, so you can go and see Mercury House. Spend a few days in Stonetown, and then you can travel to another part of the island and go and stay in one of the lovely resorts and flop and drop on the beach for a few days. There is also the option to add on the gorilla trekking at the end of your safari, and that makes for a really nice trip to do around to East Africa. Couple of things to note with gorilla trekking. You will need to buy a permit and you will need to buy it quite well in advance because they do sell out. They are limited permits. Also, you do need to be in fairly good health and fitness to go and do a gorilla trek, but there's a really great range of accommodation and the guides will break you up into groups depending on your fitness levels. So you could be walking an hour and you might see the gorillas, or it might take you 4 or 5 hours. It's just absolute potluck. And once you get to the gorilla families, you'll have a maximum of 1 hour with the gorillas, and you will need to keep a distance of at least 7 meters. But most people that do this, they absolutely just are brought to tears by the whole experience. They just said it's one of the most amazing things they've ever done. So that takes you through our guide on the Great Migration, and there is so much more we can share with you in terms of accommodation options. But if I can leave you with one piece of information, just please remember the cheapest option is not always the best. We want to make sure that we're providing you with the best quality safari experience possible, and we can explain the reasons why when we put an itinerary together for you, why we've done it the way that we have. So of course on our website, worldjourneys.co.nz, you'll find all of our migration experiences.